I didn't say anything when she left. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I knew words wouldn't change what had already happened inside her. There's a specific kind of silence that follows the end of something you thought was permanent. It's not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It simply settles into the room like dust after a door closes, and you realize, sitting there alone, that the hardest part isn't the leaving itself, it's learning how to exist in the space that remains. I used to think letting go meant forgiveness, closure, some mutual understanding where both people walk away enlightened. I was wrong. Letting go is much quieter than that. It's waking up one morning and noticing you didn't check your phone first thing. It's driving past the coffee shop without that small contraction in your chest. It's the absence of reaction, where there used to be everything. I didn't arrive at this through wisdom or strength. I arrived here because holding on had become more exhausting than the alternative. The first thing I learned was that grief doesn't care about your dignity. It will show up at 3 in the morning, in grocery store aisles, in songs you didn't even know you remembered. And the instinct is to fight it, to suppress it, to appear unaffected. But that's not control. That's avoidance. Real control is sitting with the discomfort without letting it dictate your actions, feeling everything while doing nothing. That distinction saved me from a dozen humiliating text messages I almost sent. I stopped explaining myself, not out of bitterness, but because I realized that most explanations are just disguised attempts to change someone's mind, and you can't argue someone back into caring. You can't logic your way into being chosen again. The people who left made a decision with the information they had. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe they'll regret it. But that's no longer my concern. My concern became this. How do I walk forward without dragging the past behind me like a chain? If this reflection resonates with you, consider subscribing. Some lessons only make sense when you stay. I learned to distinguish between what I lost and what I was afraid of losing. Most of my pain wasn't about her absence. It was about the future I had constructed in my head, the identity I had built around being someone's person. When that collapsed, I thought I had lost myself. But that wasn't true. I had only lost a story, and stories can be rewritten. The person I was before her still existed. Quieter, maybe. Changed, certainly. But not erased. There's a rule I started following without naming it at first. I stopped seeking comfort in things that made me weaker. No drunk texting, no scrolling through old photos at midnight, no asking mutual friends how she was doing. These things felt like self-care in the moment, like I was being gentle with myself. But they were actually small acts of self-destruction. Each one reopened the wound I was trying to close. So I made a private vow. I would not contribute to my own suffering. If the pain came naturally, I would meet it, but I would not manufacture it. I became selfish with my attention. Not in a bitter way, but in a survival way. I stopped giving energy to people and situations that required me to perform a version of myself I no longer recognized. I stopped pretending I was fine when I wasn't. I also stopped pretending I was devastated when I was simply tired. I gave myself permission to be in transition, to not have answers, to exist in the gray area between heartbreak and healing, without labeling it. The second rule revealed itself slowly. I had to stop treating her departure as something that happened to me, and start seeing it as something that happened. Period. No villain, no victim, just two people who couldn't make it work. The moment I stopped needing her to be wrong, I stopped needing to be right. And that freed me from the endless mental arguments I was having with someone who wasn't even in the room anymore. I wasn't defending myself to her. I was defending myself to my own mind, and my mind already knew the truth. I started to notice how much of my identity had been outsourced. How many of my opinions were just echoes of hers. How many of my routines were built around someone else's preferences. It's strange, realizing how much of yourself you gave away without noticing. Not because you were weak, but because you loved someone and wanted them to feel at home in your life. There's no shame in that. But there's also no going back. So I began the work of reclaiming myself. Small things. Coffee the way I actually liked it. Music she hated. Silence when I needed it, instead of filling every gap with noise. The third rule, I stopped waiting for the moment when it would all make sense. There's this myth that healing comes with clarity, that one day you'll understand why it ended, and that understanding will set you free. But some things don't have neat explanations. Some people leave because they're confused. Some leave because they're scared. Some leave because they simply stopped feeling what they used to feel. And none of those reasons will satisfy you if you're looking for closure. So I stopped looking. I accepted that I might never fully understand. And strangely, that acceptance was more liberating than any explanation could have been. I became protective of my peace in ways I hadn't been before. I stopped entertaining hypotheticals. What if I had said this differently? What if I had noticed sooner? What if I had been less of this or more of that? These questions are traps. They keep you imprisoned in a past you can't change, obsessing over variables you never fully controlled. I trained myself to notice when my mind went there and gently redirect it. Not with force, not with shame, just with the quiet awareness that this particular path leads nowhere useful. The fourth rule was about presence. I had spent so much time either replaying the past or dreading the future that I forgot how to be here. Now, in this moment, which is the only moment that actually exists, I started doing small things that required my full attention. Cooking without distractions, walking without headphones, sitting with my coffee and actually tasting it. These weren't grand gestures of self-improvement. They were acts of returning to myself. And slowly, I started to feel less like a ghost in my own life. I also learned that you can be kind to someone in your memory without wanting them back in your reality. I didn't have to demonize her to move on. I didn't have to rewrite history and pretend it was all bad. It wasn't all bad. Some of it was extraordinary, and that's okay. Acknowledging the good doesn't mean I want to return to it. It just means I'm being honest. And honesty, even when it's painful, keeps you sane. The fifth rule is the hardest. I had to let go of the need to be seen as the one who got hurt. There's a strange comfort in victimhood. It gives you a role to play, a narrative that makes sense, a reason to be angry. But it also keeps you stuck. I realized I was clinging to the story of my own suffering because it gave me an identity. The heartbroken one, the abandoned one, the one who loved more. But that story was a cage, and the key was simply deciding I didn't want to live there anymore. Letting go isn't a single moment. It's not a decision you make once and then it's done. It's a series of small choices, made over and over in moments when no one is watching. It's choosing not to respond, choosing to sit with discomfort instead of numbing it, choosing to build a life that doesn't revolve around the absence of someone else. And some days you'll fail, you'll slip, you'll find yourself right back in the longing, the anger, the confusion. But that doesn't erase the progress. It just means you're human. I don't know if I've fully let go. Maybe you never do completely. Maybe there's always a small part of you that remembers, that wonders, that carries the weight of what was. But that part gets quieter. It takes up less space, and eventually you realize you've gone entire days without thinking about it. Not because you've forgotten, but because you've made room for other things, better things, truer things. I'm not grateful it happened. I won't pretend there's some grand lesson that made it all worth it. But I am different now, more careful with who I let in, more honest about what I need, more willing to walk away from things that don't serve me, even when walking away is the harder choice. And maybe that's enough. The silence doesn't feel empty anymore, it feels like mine.